You're in a meeting, a real one, quarterly numbers, your slides, people watching, and halfway through a sentence you've said 100 times, your throat closes and your chest floods with something that has no business being there. Not nerves, grief. A wave of panic so specific it almost has a shape, and none of it belongs to the room you're standing in. The presentation is going fine. Your life is fine. There is no reason for the thing that just walked into your body. That evening you find out. At that exact hour, the person you haven't spoken to in weeks was in the middle of something awful. A fight, a breakdown, a confrontation that gutted them, and the feeling you couldn't explain lines up to the hour. If some version of that has happened to you, you're not losing it. You're describing what people in this world call twin flame telepathy, and I want to be careful with that word from the very first minute, because almost everything popular content tells you about it is either romanticized into nonsense or flattened into a party trick. So here's the plain version. Telepathy, in the twin flame sense, isn't mind reading. It isn't a psychic superpower you switch on with the right crystal. It's closer to this: two people whose nervous systems are so tuned to each other that one person's internal weather shows up, uninvited, inside the other person's body. Feeling, sensation, a scent, a phrase, transferred without a text, without a call, sometimes across a distance where none of it should be reachable. Not something you do, something that happens to you. And I need you to hear the honest part before the beautiful part, because most channels skip it. This is usually not blissful. When people first find this experience, they imagine some warm golden thread of love humming between two souls. What they actually get is closer to a boundary that won't stay shut. Someone else's anxiety leaking into their Tuesday afternoon. Someone else's grief hijacking a moment that was supposed to be theirs. It's invasive, it's exhausting, and it tends to spike hardest at the worst possible time. There are 7 distinct ways this shows up, and I'm going to walk you through all of them. But I want to hand you one idea first and let it sit under everything else, because it's the difference between this experience helping you and this experience wrecking you for a year. The signal is usually real. The story you build on top of it is where you get hurt. Hold on to that. We'll come back to it hard. Let me start with the ways this comes through the body, because these are the ones people search for at 2 a.m., half convinced something is medically wrong with them. The first is the one from the meeting. Call it emotional bleed-through, a wave of feeling that lands with no personal trigger and lands wrong. You're not sad about anything, and yet grief, or dread, or a jittery panic pours in like a window blew open. The tell isn't the feeling itself. It's the mismatch. Everything in your actual life is calm, and this thing arrived anyway. People describe the exact moment they realize it. This isn't mine. That instinct, that quiet click of this, belongs to someone else, is the whole experience in 1 second. Here's where I have to give you a word, because the mechanism doesn't make sense without it. In this framework, there are 2 roles. There's the one who pulls away, goes quiet, stops answering, physically creates distance. This world calls that person the runner. And there's the one left reaching, refreshing the thread, feeling all of it, the chaser. If you're watching this, you're almost certainly the chaser, and that matters, because the bleed-through usually runs one direction. The runner shuts the feeling down in real life. Jaw tight, phone face down, I'm fine. And it doesn't disappear. It has to go somewhere. It goes to you. The second body channel is what people call the ping, not a mood, a jolt, a sudden sharp spike, like a shot of adrenaline out of a clear sky, right in the pit of your stomach or the center of your chest. It's fast, it's over in seconds, and it tends to hit at strange, ordinary moments. Standing in line, brushing your teeth, which is exactly why it rattles people. It feels less like an emotion and more like a notification going off in a body that never agreed to receive notifications. And the third is the one that genuinely frightens people because it's physical. Your chest flutters or tightens for no reason. You catch a scent that isn't in the room, their specific cologne, cigarette smoke, a particular laundry detergent, so concentrated it feels real enough to touch, or a phantom sensation on your skin, a pressure, a brush, like someone was just there. These arrive fast and vanish fast. And I want to name plainly that these same sensations can also be ordinary anxiety or something worth checking with a doctor. We're going to deal with that honestly later, because pretending otherwise is how people get hurt in this niche. That's 3 of the 7, the ones that come straight through the body. But the connection doesn't only travel through your chest and your skin, it also comes through your thoughts and through your sleep. And those 2 channels are the ones where people fool themselves the most, where a real signal gets handed to a very unreliable translator. So let's finish the 7, and then I'll show you the machinery underneath. Because once you understand why this happens, the whole thing gets less scary and a lot more useful. The 4th type comes through your thoughts, and it's the one people are most afraid to say out loud. You hear them. Not a vague sense of them, their exact words, their phrasing, the specific way they'd say it, sometimes a nickname only they used for you, looping in your head out of nowhere. A sentence drops in fully formed, "I ruin everything," or "I miss you," in a voice that sounds like theirs, and not like your own inner narration. People whisper this to me like they're confessing something, because hearing a specific person's voice sounds, on paper, like something is wrong with you. Hold that thought. We're going to deal with it directly, and there's a real line here that matters. The 5th comes through sleep, and it doesn't feel like a dream. Regular dreams are chaotic, forgettable, gone by the time your feet hit the floor. These are different, structured, emotionally enormous. The person shows up and says something, apologizes, explains a fear they'd never say awake, holds you, and you surface the next morning still carrying the physical residue of it, like the conversation actually happened somewhere. People in this world call these astral meetings, which is just their phrase for the sense that the 2 of you met somewhere outside your bodies while the rest of the world slept. The 6th is smaller and stranger, cravings that aren't yours. You've been a tea person your whole life, and suddenly you want black coffee at 3 p.m. A genre of music you never cared for is stuck in your head, their music. A food you don't even like starts calling to you. It's subtle enough that most people never connect it to anything, which is part of why it unsettles them once they do. And the 7th is the one that breaks people's composure entirely, synchronicity in language. After weeks of total silence, you send a text, and it crosses theirs in the air. Same thought, nearly the same words, time-stamped to the same minute. Or you both reach for a phrase almost no one uses, at the same moment, on the same day. It feels like proof. It feels like the universe grabbing you by the collar, and I'll be honest with you about what it is and isn't before we're done. Now, the machinery. The spiritual explanation in this community runs on 2 words you'll hear constantly, so let me hand them to you cleanly. When people say the 3D, they just mean physical, waking, ordinary reality, the world of blocked numbers and unanswered texts. When they say the 5D, they mean the energetic layer, the felt but unseen level where, in this framework, the 2 of you are already connected, no matter what's happening in real life. The theory goes like this. The runner shuts everything down in the 3D, goes cold, goes silent, but the feeling doesn't evaporate. It gets forced upward and outward into the 5D, and it bleeds straight into you. That's why the community rarely calls these messages. They call them downloads, because it doesn't arrive like a slow thought you built. It drops in all at once, complete, like a file that finished transferring in a single second. That's the spiritual frame. And I don't need you to swallow it whole to use this video, because there's a grounded explanation sitting right underneath it, and the honest thing is that both can be true at the same time. Here's the plain psychology. When you love someone and you're anxious about losing them, your nervous system becomes an unbelievably sensitive instrument pointed at that one person. You track them without meaning to. Micro patterns in their timing, their tone, the rhythm of when they usually text. You've absorbed years of data about how they move through the world. So when your body suddenly knows they're in distress, sometimes that's not magic at all. It's a mind that has quietly modeled this person so completely it can run a live simulation of them. Add a nervous system that's been in fight or flight for months, and your own panic starts getting mapped onto a phantom. A knot in your stomach gets read as their fear. That's not you being foolish. That's a brain doing exactly what a bonded, exhausted, hypervigilant brain does. So which is it? Soul connection or overworked nervous system? I'll give you the answer that's actually useful. It almost doesn't matter, because the thing you have to get right is the same either way. Think of it like catching a distant radio station through static. There's a real transmission. You can tell someone's on the air. You can even catch the emotional tone of it, the mood coming through the noise. That part is genuine. But the words garble, and the human mind cannot stand a garbled signal, so it fills in lyrics that were never sung. The transmission is real. The lyrics you wrote over the static are yours. That's the whole thing. That's the idea I planted in part 1, and it's the one that keeps people safe. The signal is often real. The translation is where you get hurt. A runner sends a raw wave of fear, real signal, and your mind, which loves you and is terrified, translates that formless fear into a full sentence. They hate me, or they've met someone else, or they're never coming back. The feeling was real. The sentence was fiction. You built it. Which brings me to the misconception I need to break, because it's the one that quietly ruins people. Not every thought about them is a download. It isn't. Most of them aren't. There's a real difference in texture, and once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. A genuine download drops in uninvited. You weren't thinking about them. You were doing your taxes, and it arrived sideways, out of nowhere, almost inconvenient. What people mistake for telepathy is usually the opposite. It's 1 a.m., you're on their old messages again. You've read the same 3 texts 40 times, and you've worked yourself into a feeling. That's not a signal reaching you. That's longing you manufactured, wearing a signal's clothes. Learning to tell those two apart is genuinely hard at first, and it's exactly the kind of thing you can't eyeball when you're the one drowning in it. If you want a structured way to run a given experience through that test, is this an actual download, or is this my own anxious loop dressed up as one? That specific real versus false checklist is one of the things the twin flame compass walks you through, step by step, so you're not trying to referee your own mind alone at midnight. Because once you can tell the real signal from the story you're painting over it, the next question is the practical one. What do you actually do when a wave hits and won't leave? That's where we go next. So a wave hits. It's real, it's loud, it's someone else's, and you're standing in your kitchen holding it. What do you actually do? Start with one question, out loud if you can. Is this mine? That's it. That's the whole first move. You pause the second the feeling lands, and you check it against your actual life. Is there anything in this room, this day, this body, that would explain a grief this size? If there isn't, you've likely caught something that isn't yours to carry. And in this community, there's a simple practice people use to put it down. You picture the feeling going back where it came from, and you say something like, "This isn't mine, and I'm returning it." It sounds almost too simple, but the point isn't the visualization. The point is that you stop processing someone else's panic as if it were a problem you're required to solve. You felt it. You don't have to keep it. The second thing is physical, and it's the one people skip because it isn't mystical enough to feel important. When this connection is roaring, you are, in the most literal sense, overstimulated, wound up, buzzing, stuck in your head. So you get out of your head and back into your body. Cold water on your face or a cold shower, bare feet on grass or actual dirt, something heavy, lift it, carry it, move it, eat a real meal. None of this is a metaphor. A nervous system that's been running hot for months genuinely calms down when you make the body do something solid and boring, and a calmer nervous system stops broadcasting static that your mind can paint stories onto. You're not shutting the connection off. You're turning down the volume so you can think. Now I have to say the hard part, and I'm not going to soften it, because softening it is how people in this exact situation lose years. Telepathy cannot override the physical world. It can't. A connection can be screaming in the 5D while the person is stone cold silent in the 3D, and the silence is the truth you have to live in. If someone has blocked your number, told you to leave them alone, moved on with somebody else, called you unstable for reaching out, but telepathically I can feel that he still loves me, and he's just scared, I need you to hear how that sentence functions. It's not a spiritual insight. It's an anesthetic. It's the thing that lets a person stay parked in a one-sided fantasy for 2, 3, 5 years while their real life empties out. The feeling might even be real. It still cannot be the reason you override what the person is plainly showing you, which leads to the line, I will never bend on. A boundary is a boundary, and nothing you feel in the 5D is permission to cross it. If you get a sudden spike, and your mind translates it as they're calling out to me, they need me, that is not consent. It is never a green light to show up at their door, their job, to break a no-contact agreement, to violate a restraining order. What you feel on your end changes nothing about what they've asked for on theirs. A felt sense of connection does not outrank a stated no, ever. And there's one more, and this is me caring about you, not lecturing you. Some of these symptoms, hearing a specific person's voice, phantom touch on your skin, sudden shifts in how you feel that frighten you, can look identical to things that are medical, not mystical. Clinical limerence, a nervous system so burned out it's producing perceptions that aren't there, sometimes more than that, and there is nothing unspiritual about naming that. If the voice is constant, if it's distressing, if it's frightening you or steering you, please bring it to a doctor or a therapist as well. Being open to a soul connection and taking care of your mind are not opposites. The people who hold both are the ones who come through this hole. Here's where I'll leave you. The connection, being loud, has never once meant it's ready. A signal can be strong and still lead nowhere in the physical world. Those are two completely separate facts. And the entire art of surviving this stage is refusing to let one masquerade as the other. You're allowed to feel every bit of it. The wave, the scent, the voice, the 2 a.m. jolt that swears they're thinking of you. Feel all of it. You just don't have to obey the story your mind writes on top of it. That's the actual work. Not shutting the connection down, not forcing it open. Learning to stand in the middle of a very loud signal and stay the calmest, clearest, most grounded person in the room. When you can feel it and still keep your feet on the floor, it stops running your life. And that's the version of you the whole thing was trying to build all along.